All right, we're going to try recording from my laptop. Hopefully, the audio is a little bit better in these videos. If not, I'll get a microphone. We'll figure this out. But I'm going to walk you through today really quick this week and a half. I'm not sure. I haven't done this project in a while. I'm not sure how long it'll take. My guess is a little over a week. You can do this stuff with a group. I don't expect you to do it alone. I want you to work with a group on this one. It makes everybody's job a little bit easier. But this week's going to go like this. Monday is a quiz. It's just like that red paper, new numbers, slightly different problems, but there shouldn't be any surprises on it. All based on what we were doing last week and a half. So that's Monday. Your job is to do this quiz and finish, or no, not finish, but pick your team for the sports analyst project. I'll show you what that looks like. But what we've got going on here is this one says Seattle Seahawks sports analyst. You're going to pick an NFL team. I've got 4 lined up for us to use. The Seahawks, the San Francisco 49ers, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Los Angeles Rams. So you're going to pick one of those teams to be a sports analyst for. Sports analyst job is to look through all the data and see what the team needs to improve on, where they're good at, all that fun stuff with numbers and sports together. You're going to assume that role for a little bit. You're going to look at the data from last year, see what the trends were, where your team was successful, where it wasn't, what it needs to improve on to be successful next year. So this front page of the packet is just that, an explanation of what your job is in this project, and the rubric, how you're going to get scored based on everything that you do. You know, your analysis, what you recognize, what patterns you see, how accurate you are in your calculations, and then the presentation that you make at the end. This is why I want you to work in groups, is because I don't want you to have to do a whole presentation all by yourself. You're more than welcome to, but that's a lot of work to do. I will provide you with the stats for the season, showing their opponents, the score of the game, passing yards, rushing yards. So how far you threw the ball, how far your team ran with the ball. Turnovers, how many times your team gave the ball to the opponent, how many yards the opponent threw the ball for, and how many yards the opponent ran for. You're going to look at all of those. Give me some totals and averages. We are going to look at just the first 4 games, totals and averages, make an estimate of what it would be after 16 games, and compare that to the actual. So we're going to see if the first 4 games, if that trend continued, what would their estimate be? How many of each category would they have? How many yards and turnovers? And what the actual was. This will let us see, did they make changes during the season that affected the final outcome, or did things just continue to go the same all year round? It says go around the room, but really I want you to just do this in a group and compare with your group to make sure you've got it. We'll do some box and whisker plots. They're an interesting looking graph. I'll put up a video explaining how to do them a little bit later in the week. But if you want to rush ahead, go ahead, find a YouTube video of it. I'm not the only one doing this. I'm sure someone else has a much better video of this. So we'll make some box and whisker graphs for each of the categories. They're pretty straightforward. One of the pages will have us predict. So I'll tell you, in this case, week 6, the Seahawks were playing the Arizona Cardinals. You're going to compare the 2 teams through 5 weeks. So like finding the averages of each of these categories. This is the Arizona Cardinals information. And you're going to tell me, hey, based on the data that you see, so based on the Seahawks record and their averages compared to the Cardinals averages, which team is performing better? Which one do you predict will win the game? And you have to explain why. The last thing we do before the presentation is we practice with what are called events. Just anything that happened throughout the year. The first one here being just the Seahawks win. So you're going to go back and you're going to look at, hey, out of all the games that were played, how many of them did the Seahawks win? Out of how many games total? That'll give us a nice easy fraction. We can convert that into a decimal and into a percentage. I will share all of that. I will set up some more videos throughout the week explaining each step of the process so that you're not alone. If you want to rush ahead and I don't have the video set up, you can YouTube it. You can ask me in class, and if I've got time, I will want to explain it to you so that you're not rushing ahead into chaos and mistakes and erasing and starting over in frustration. Don't want that to happen. But after you've done this a few times, I want to check your understanding and see, hey, what do you know about these events? If your decimal's near 0, if it's near half, if it's near 1, what does that mean? The last thing we'll look at is compound events. So in this case, things like 2 things happening at once. The Seahawks winning and scoring more than 24 points. So you're not just going to look at every game possible. You're only going to look at, hey, what were the games that the Seahawks won? And out of those games, how many of them did they score more than 24 points? This will give us a fraction with a new denominator. We'll turn that into a decimal and into a percentage. Again, once we learn how to do that, it's pretty easy to just go through. The hardest part will be deciding which games are part of the event and which games are not. Finally, the presentation. It explains that in your presentation, you've got 4 things you've got to share with me. 2 areas of focus for your team. So, hey, they need to get better at turnovers. They need to have more. They need to have less. Rush yards, pass yards, allow less, whatever it may be. Pick 2 areas. And then give me data to support your 2 claims. So this might be their total for the year compared to another team. You might look at someone else's data and say, our team has way less rushing yards than their team. It might be that you look at the compound events and say, hey, when we rush for 75 yards, we win 80% of the time. So we need to do that over and over and over. But you need to have data supporting your claims. Give me an estimated final record. Just give me a prediction, what you think end of the year, how many wins will we have, how many losses? And then support the results of your predicted season outcome. So explain how you came up with we're going to win 14 games and lose 3 games. How did you come up with those numbers? Your presentation can be PowerPoint, Google Slides, Prezi, any of those things, something similar to it. You could write a letter. You could create just one giant poster board and have all your data just on one big board. You could make a video. You could do whatever you want to do. Pitch it to me. If it's not one of those things, tell me in advance so that I can say yes or no, or I can make sure that we're on the same page with it beforehand. But again, that's the goal for this week.